In a quiet neighborhood filled with blooming gardens and friendly faces, there lived a curious little girl named Mia. She was 7 years old, with bright blue eyes that sparkled like the sky on a sunny day. Her golden curls bounced as she skipped around, always eager to explore new places and meet new friends. Mia had an adventurous spirit that made every day feel like a treasure hunt. Every morning, after finishing her breakfast of fluffy pancakes and fresh fruit, Mia would put on her favorite pink sneakers and rush out the door. The world outside her house was a playground of wonder. She loved to wander down the tree-lined streets, greeting the neighbors as she went. "Hi, Mrs. Thompson," she would shout cheerfully as she passed the elderly lady who tended to her roses. Mrs. Thompson would wave back with a smile, her hands covered in dirt but filled with joy. Mia's curiosity often led her to the local park, where she would climb the tallest swings and watch the clouds float by. There were always other kids playing there too. Some were flying kites while others chased each other around like joyful puppies. With each new face, Mia introduced herself and made friends effortlessly. She had a special way of making everyone feel included, whether it was sharing a snack or inviting them to play hide-and-seek. One sunny afternoon, while exploring near the park's entrance, Mia noticed something strange at a small corner store called Marco's Market. It wasn't an ordinary store. It had an old-fashioned charm with its wooden sign hanging slightly askew and colorful displays of candy in the window that caught her eye. The moment she stepped inside, the sweet smell of fresh pastries greeted her like an old friend. As Mia wandered through the aisles filled with goodies and treats, she stumbled upon a man standing at the counter who looked different from anyone she had seen before. He was tall, with thick black hair, and wore dark sunglasses even indoors. There was something intimidating about him. He seemed to have an air of authority that made Mia both curious and cautious. Being brave, Mia approached him with big, innocent eyes and asked, "What's your name?" The man turned his head slightly, but did not take off his glasses. "I'm Marco," he replied in a low voice that sent shivers down her spine, but also intrigued her. Before leaving the store with her candy bag in hand, a treasure of chocolate coins she couldn't wait to share with her friends, Mia accidentally knocked over a stack of receipts at Marco's counter. They tumbled everywhere. In a flurry of giggles and apologies, she helped pick them up. "Oh no! I got my address on one of these!" Mia exclaimed as she realized what had happened when Marco handed one receipt back to her along with a wink. Marco smirked, but didn't seem too worried about it. Instead, he told her to be careful next time. Little did Mia know just how dangerous that receipt could be. As she hurried out of the store, skipping happily under the warm sun, she thought nothing more of it. Her day continued as if nothing happened. After spending hours playing in the park and chatting with friends about their exciting adventures, like climbing trees and pretending they were pirates sailing across vast oceans, Mia returned home tired but happy. She felt like she could conquer anything. However, deep down in another part of town, where shadows loomed larger than life itself, Marco was not just any store owner. He was known for being involved in very serious business dealings among some very scary people, the kind usually found only in stories told at bedtime to scare children into behaving. As night began to fall over their neighborhood and stars twinkled above like diamonds sprinkled on velvet cloth, no one knew that those seemingly innocent moments were about to become entangled in something much darker than what little Mia could ever imagine. The adventures that awaited this brave little girl were far beyond swinging on swings or gathering treasures from candy stores. She unwittingly became part of a story where courage would be tested in ways no one could foresee. Innocence collided with danger, as secrets whispered through shadows when those men came looking for answers at Mia's doorstep. A chilling turn awaiting just around the corner from cheerful afternoons spent skipping through gardens and playing giant games under wide-open skies. As Mia skipped happily down the familiar tree-lined street towards Marco's market, she felt a skip in her heart from the excitement of the day ahead. She had saved her allowance for weeks, dreaming of all the delicious candies she would buy. The sun shone brightly, casting playful shadows on the sidewalk as she approached the little store with its colorful window displays. Inside, the air was filled with a delightful mix of sweet and savory scents. Pastries lined the shelves, and jars filled with bright candies sparkled like jewels. It was a treasure trove for any child, especially for Mia, who couldn't wait to indulge in her sugary delights. She wandered through the aisles, her eyes wide with wonder, picking out chocolate coins and gummy bears. As she made her way to the counter, however, things took an unexpected turn. There stood Marco, his tall figure looming over the register. He wore dark sunglasses that obscured his eyes and had an unsettling smile that didn't quite reach his lips. Despite being just a child, Mia could sense that he was someone to be cautious around. There was something about him that felt off, something she couldn't quite put into words. "Hi there," Mia said cheerfully as she placed her handful of candy on the counter. Marco nodded but stayed silent, scanning her items with a practiced hand. The atmosphere felt thick with tension, as if time itself had slowed down. After paying for her treats, Marco handed Mia a receipt printed on crinkled paper. "Here you go," he said, his voice low and gravelly. "Make sure to keep that safe." Mia took the receipt without thinking much of it. After all, it was just a piece of paper. But as she turned to leave, an idea sparked in her playful mind. She loved drawing and doodling wherever she went. With a quick glance back at Marco, and noticing he wasn't watching, she grabbed a pen from her pocket and began to write down her home address on the back of the receipt. "I'll make this my official treasure map," she giggled to herself as she scribbled away, feeling proud about creating something unique. What Mia didn't realize was how dangerous this innocent act could potentially be. While she sat there daydreaming about adventures around every corner, Marco's demeanor shifted slightly when he noticed what she was doing out of the corner of his eye. A shadow crossed his face so as he seemed to contemplate something sinister lurking behind that seemingly harmless girl. Once Mia finished writing her address, she carefully folded the receipt and placed it back into her pocket before waving goodbye to Marco with a cheerful, "Thank you." She stepped outside into the warm sunlight, with thoughts of sharing candy with friends dancing in her head. Little did she know that this simple mistake would ripple outward like ripples in water. A small action leading to unexpected consequences that could change everything in an instant. As night approached and stars began twinkling above, those consequences were already set in motion unbeknownst to Mia. Marco's connection to people who dealt in darker affairs meant that any hint or clue could lead them right back to where they needed to go. The address written casually on a child's receipt. Meanwhile, back at home, Mia eagerly shared stories about her day over dinner. Life felt carefree and blissful. Her parents smiled at each animated tale while completely unaware of what lurked beyond their cozy home, a world they thought they were protecting their daughter from. As darkness wrapped around their neighborhood like a blanket stretched too tight over strange secrets hidden beneath its folds, Marco sat quietly behind his counter, plotting how best to use this information now in his possession. The address of an innocent girl who would soon find herself caught up in something far beyond what playground games had ever prepared her for. innocence mingled dangerously with shadowy intentions as Mia continued blissfully unaware, her playful spirit leading directly towards unforeseen dangers, waiting silently just beyond sight's grasp. What awaited at her doorstep would challenge everything about bravery and trust, at an age when life should be nothing but adventure-filled days under wide-open skies. In the shadows of the cheerful neighborhood where Mia lived, something much darker thrived. Marco, the store owner she so innocently encountered, was not just a shopkeeper. He was a mafia boss involved in serious and illegal business activities. Known for his charm and intimidation tactics, Marco commanded respect and fear among those around him. He was the kind of person who could walk into a room and instantly silence any chatter, leaving behind an unsettling air that made people uneasy. Marco's main source of power came from illegal trades and dealings that reached beyond the neighborhood. He was involved in smuggling goods, extorting local businesses, and even orchestrating operations that were far too dangerous for anyone to speak about openly. While he appeared to be just a regular store owner on the surface, beneath that facade lay a network of shady connections that ran deep into the city's underbelly. The whispers about his activities spread quietly through town, spoken of only in hushed tones, as residents feared being associated with him in any way. His men, loyal followers who worked for him, were equally intimidating. They stood by his side like shadows, acting as enforcers who carried out his orders without question. Dressed in dark clothing and often wearing stern expressions, they were always on alert, scanning their surroundings for any signs of trouble. Each man understood the importance of loyalty to Marco. It was not just a matter of pride, but a survival instinct in a world where betrayal could lead to disastrous consequences. These men were not just thugs. They were often well-trained in handling various situations, including conflicts that could arise from their dealings. With pasts shrouded in mystery, many had walked the line between right and wrong for so long that they no longer knew where they stood. They respected Marco because he offered them protection and a sense of belonging in a harsh world. He provided for them and their families while expecting unquestioning obedience in return. Among this group, there was a particularly loyal enforcer named Tony. He had been with Marco for years, having risen through the ranks with his fierce dedication and ruthless efficiency. Tony was known for his quick decision-making and ability to intimidate anyone who dared challenge Marco's authority. He believed deeply in Marco's vision of control and stability, which made him one of Marco's most trusted advisors. Yet even Tony was aware that loyalty came with risks. An unspoken fear lingered among them all that one misstep could lead to dire consequences. While Mia skipped through the neighborhood unaware of the dangerous games playing out around her, Marco and his men engaged in activities that shaped their lives, and everyone's lives around them, in unsettling ways. They controlled various aspects of the local businesses under the guise of protection, but demanded payment in return, leaving many owners feeling trapped and vulnerable. As darkness fell over the neighborhood that night, the vibrant energy of daytime faded into an eerie silence. Streets once filled with laughter now echoed with tension, where anyone who ventured out felt the electric pulse of uncertainty in the air. The vibrant flowers in gardens seemed wilted under the shadow cast by Marco's influence. Back at Marco's market, as he reviewed the day's transactions with his men, he casually recounted the encounter with Mia to emphasize how innocent actions could have significant implications. A little girl's scribbled address might lead us to something interesting. He chuckled darkly, his men joining in on the laughter. But their smiles didn't show joy. It was an acknowledgement of understanding just how precarious their situation truly was. They turned to discuss plans for retrieving more information about Mia's family. After all, business was business, and money could flow easily if they played their cards right. As plots thickened in hushed tones, Mia's carefree adventures twisted into something dangerous and unknown. With each passing moment, Mia remained blissfully unaware of the web being spun around her life, her innocence still shining brightly against a backdrop of looming darkness. The push and pull between childhood curiosity and grown-up dangers began its slow dance towards an inevitable collision course, one that would soon shake her little world to its core. The Mafia's grip tightened around the neighborhood like a vice, ready to close down on anyone who dared question their authority, or who stumbled upon their secrets, even if by accident. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the quiet neighborhood, an unsettling calm settled over Mia's home. Inside, she was blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just beyond her front door. Laughter and warmth filled the air as Mia shared stories of her day over dinner with her parents, their joyful chatter a stark contrast to the dark intentions lurking nearby. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit back room of Marco's market, Tony and a few other enforcers gathered around a table. The atmosphere was tense with purpose as they reviewed the slip of paper with Mia's address written on it. They knew that finding the little girl was crucial. She represented an opportunity they couldn't afford to ignore. "Let's go pay her a visit," Tony said, his voice low but commanding. His men nodded in agreement. They understood the weight of this task. For them, loyalty to Marco meant not only following orders, but doing so with efficiency and seriousness. They grabbed their jackets and headed out into the night, their footsteps echoing against the pavement like warnings in an empty street. The drive to Mia's house felt deceptively brief. As they approached, headlights illuminated the modest home decorated with flowers and cheerful paint. To those who didn't know better, it seemed like a picture-perfect setting where nothing sinister could occur. But for Tony and his crew, this was a place of business, a chance to gather information that could lead them deeper into whatever secrets Mia's family held. Tony stepped out first, scanning the surroundings for any signs of trouble. He gestured for his men to stay alert as they moved toward the door, hearts pounding with adrenaline. With each step closer to Mia's home, an unsettling tension built up in the air. What would they find once inside? The men exchanged glances filled with anticipation and caution. Each one had seen enough in their line of work to understand that innocent appearances often concealed hidden truths. As Tony raised his hand to knock on the door, he could almost feel the weight of their mission pressing against him. A mission that could unravel lives or solidify their grip on power, depending on how it unfolded. A moment passed before someone finally answered, a friendly neighbor who had noticed strange faces outside and decided to investigate. "Can I help you?" she asked curiously, eyeing them skeptically. "We're looking for the little girl who lives here," Tony replied smoothly, masking any hint of urgency in his tone. "Oh, you mean Mia?" "She's inside," said the neighbor, oblivious to the danger about to unfold right under her nose. "She's probably playing with some friends." With that simple confirmation, Tony motioned for his men to follow him inside, as if they were simply guests invited for dessert, rather than agents of something much more threatening. Inside Mia's home, laughter echoed joyfully through every room as she excitedly told tales from her day at school and stories about her candy haul from Marco's market. But then came a chilling pause. Mia noticed unfamiliar footsteps approaching down the hall. The enforcers were careful not to make their presence known too soon. They lingered near entrances and listened closely before revealing themselves completely. Suspense hung thick in the air like fog, their intentions masked by polite smiles as they prepared to confront this unsuspecting child. "Mia!" one of them called out nonchalantly as he stepped into view, his smile nothing short of unnerving against his rugged features. At that moment, Mia felt a jolt of uncertainty wash over her as she turned towards him, instinctively sensing that something was wrong, even before understanding why. The joyful chatter around her stopped abruptly. Hushed whispers filled the space where laughter once rang freely. "Who are you?" she asked hesitantly, while clutching her favorite toy tightly, a bright pink bunny given to her by her grandmother before she passed away. "Just some friends here to see how you're doing," another man said smoothly as he stepped forward, his eyes narrowing slightly while glancing at his companions for support. Innocence clashed violently with looming danger as Mia stood there wide-eyed and confused, caught between childhood curiosity and fear bubbling just beneath her surface, like a storm waiting to break free. As laughter faded into silence and smiles turned uncertain under watchful gazes, everything changed in an instant. From playful afternoons spent exploring candy stores filled with sweetness to encounters ripe with suspense, threatening to forever alter what it meant to be young and carefree in this vibrant world now cloaked in shadowy secrecy. The enforcers were poised for action, but struggled internally between their loyalty to Marco and their own humanity, all wrapped together with one frightened girl's fate precariously hanging in balance just moments away from being discovered amidst confusion shrouded by innocence lost in time, suspended at twilight's edge. The atmosphere in Mia's home shifted from cheerful to tense as the enforcers stepped across the threshold and into the brightly lit living room. They were met with the joyful sounds of Mia's laughter mingling with the comforting aroma of her mother's dinner cooking in the kitchen. The contrast between the warmth of home and the cold intentions of Marco's men felt surreal, almost like a scene from two different worlds colliding. Tony led the way, his heart pounding with a mix of adrenaline and unease. As he stepped forward, his eyes scanned every corner of the room, searching for any signs of danger or trouble. The walls were adorned with family photos showing happy moments, a birthday party, a family trip to the beach, and smiling faces filled with love. Each picture served as a reminder of the innocence that surrounded Mia, making Tony feel a flicker of doubt about their mission. "Mia!" one of the enforcers called out casually, trying to mask their intentions behind a friendly smile that looked more like a grimace. "Where are you, sweetie?" At that moment, Mia emerged from her room, clutching her beloved pink bunny tightly. Her vibrant personality instantly dimmed as she caught sight of the unfamiliar faces in her home. Fear crept into her mind like an unwelcome shadow as she hesitated at the doorway, her little fingers clutching her toy tighter. "Who are you?" she asked with innocent curiosity laced with apprehension. "Just friends?" another enforcer answered smoothly, stepping closer. His voice was calm but lacked sincerity. There was an undercurrent of threat that made Mia's heart race. As Mia stood frozen in place, she could feel something was terribly wrong. The joyful chatter from earlier faded away, replaced by an unsettling silence that enveloped them all like a thick fog. Her parents rushed into the room upon hearing strange voices, confused and alarmed at seeing strangers standing in their home. "Mia, get behind us!" her father shouted protectively as he stepped in front of his daughter, while her mother instinctively moved closer to them both. Tony sensed the tension escalating quickly. He had not expected such a fierce reaction from Mia's parents. He raised his hands slightly in a sign of peace, but couldn't escape the coldness creeping into his gut. Their cover had been blown. "We're just here to talk," Tony said deliberately, trying to keep his voice steady, despite feeling as though every word was wrapped in deception. "Your daughter might have something we need." "What do you want with our daughter?" Mia's mother demanded angrily, determination flashing in her eyes as she stood firm beside her husband. The enforcers exchanged glances filled with unspoken questions. How far could they push this before it spiraled out of control? The last thing they needed was trouble drawing unwanted attention. "Mia wrote down her address on a receipt," Tony explained finally, deciding to cut through any misunderstandings swiftly. "We just wanted to ask some questions about it." As soon as he mentioned the receipt, Mia's eyes widened in realization. Her innocent mistake had led these men straight to their doorstep. She felt a rush of fear wash over her. She instinctively took a step back toward her parents. "Why did you go to Marco's market?" Her father pressed on, sensing that there was much more under this surface conversation than what they were being told. But as Tony prepared to respond again, something unexpected happened. A loud crash echoed from outside, followed by voices shouting urgently. It sounded like chaos erupting just beyond their front yard. "What was that?" one enforcer said nervously while turning toward the noise outside. In an instant, fear swept through everyone inside. The intruder's focus shifted away from Mia and her family for just those few seconds that felt like eternity. It didn't take long before sirens blared in the distance, a sound that sent panic rippling through Tony and his men. They hadn't anticipated police involvement so swiftly after entering this unsuspecting home. It was becoming clear that they needed to rethink their strategy urgently. With hearts racing and adrenaline coursing through their veins, Tony made eye contact with his crew. It was time to move fast before everything fell apart around them. As they turned back towards Mia and her parents once more, with expressions now full of urgency instead of calm, the situation spun out of control entirely. In that horrifying moment, where innocence met chaos head-on inside these walls filled only moments ago with laughter and love, everything changed irrevocably for this little girl who simply wanted candy and adventure, but found herself at ground zero between danger lurking just outside, mixed with confusion brimming within these four walls she called home. Innocence shattered against reality as truths began unraveling at breakneck speed. What began merely as an accidental scribble now spiraled into consequences no one could have foreseen. Not even those who thought themselves untouchable amidst shadows dancing dangerously close around them all. As the enforcers stood frozen in Mia's living room, the clash of their dark intentions with the warmth of her home became increasingly evident. Tony's heart raced, feeling the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him like a heavy burden. All around him, his fellow enforcers exhibited a mix of fear and confusion that was palpable in the air. "What do we do?" one of them whispered, glancing nervously toward the front door where sirens were growing ever closer. There was an undercurrent of panic in his voice, a stark contrast to their usual bravado. "I don't know," Tony replied, running a hand through his hair as he fought to maintain control. He had always been the one in charge, the confident leader who never showed weakness. But now, faced with innocent lives and the unforeseen consequences of their mission, doubt seeped into his thoughts like poison. They were supposed to intimidate a child, get answers about an address written on a receipt. It should have been simple. Yet here they were, paralyzed as they witnessed Mia's wide eyes reflecting fear and uncertainty. This wasn't just an innocent girl. She symbolized everything he had sworn loyalty to Marco for, power and control turned upside down by sheer innocence. Another enforcer shifted uneasily, casting sidelong glances at Mia and her parents. "Should we just leave? I mean, this isn't what we signed up for," he murmured, swamped by unease. Tony could see the conflict raging within him, a moral struggle against the hardened resolve that had defined their lives for so long. "No, we can't leave," Tony insisted with newfound urgency, his voice cutting through the haze that surrounded them like a fog, threatening to suffocate all rational thought. But even as he spoke those words out loud, his mind raced with what consequences would follow if they stayed too long or made a wrong move. He felt trapped between two worlds, one where loyalty to Marco meant following orders without question, and another where compassion for innocent lives flickered brightly, but felt so distant from their reality. It gnawed at his conscience like a relentless pest, reminding him time and again that they were not just faceless enforcers, but men with families of their own who had also once known warmth and laughter far removed from this grim scenario unfolding before them. Meanwhile, Mia's father stepped forward defiantly between them and his daughter, the protective instinct kicking in full force as he guarded his family against this strange intrusion. "What do you want with my daughter?" he demanded. The unspoken fear echoed through Tony's mind again. What if things got out of hand? What if they pushed too far? The sirens blared louder outside now, police moving closer, and it felt as though time itself was collapsing under pressure from choices made long before tonight. "Just some questions," Tony replied hesitantly, struggling to maintain a calm facade even as anxiety gripped his chest tightly. Mia's mother surged forward protectively alongside her husband. "You call barging into our home questions? Who do you think you are?" She shot back vehemently, a fierce protector unwilling to back down despite feeling the tide pushing against her certainty. Each response sparked something within Tony, a growing fear mixed with confusion about how this would end. Not just for Mia or her parents, but also for them as enforcers caught in a web woven tight around mistakes made carelessly, without forethought about collateral damage inflicted innocent lives, standing firmly against them, now filled only by warmth, paired defensively shielding all futures alive, bright within sight, fresh returning hope, swiftly tagged fleetingly by shadows fading softly away, awaiting rescues, promising fate intertwined. But was it worth tarnishing whatever remained? "Maybe we should go," one enforcer suggested quietly again, eyes darting toward each other, seeking validation against instinct, urging caution, now spiraling faster amid threats closing in, overtaking responsibility, stolen beneath layers, masking faces held, dear, stirred, tightly woven connection. Breathing hope dashed while shaking foundations crumbled, forming threads tangled endlessly, pulling tighter grasp, holding desperately onto afraid wishes, lost, threaded paths, winding explore, ventured forth, living dreams, captured shadows, faded, spilling dusk. Heavy pressed, entwined together, encompassing bright colors, dimmed shadow cast upon lighter hearts, fluttering, seeking warmth, hidden beneath darkness, wearing life anew. Tony swallowed hard, gripping tightly at uncertainty, gripping every breath, struggling against resolve forged long ago, never meant like this, drifting unwound, catching freedom, misplaced alongside longing, clutched tight, lost overgrown meandering pathways leading nowhere, draining dreams once aspired, quickly flying away, stitching comfort, weaving closer, realizing destinies naturally unfolding, discovering new truths. Kinder wrapped sacred spaces warmly surrounding, protective embracing threads, winding gently, soft peace, claiming slowly, carving childhood tenderly, laying brighter days ahead, beckoning, calling forth, awakening love blossoms, heralding light, sparkling marvelously beyond visible horizon, beckoning wandering souls home free through endless embrace, shared renewing whispers, echo fleeting moments, shimmering boundless dreaming, always chasing, but inside, each man lay conflict raging still, a battle between understanding kindness, knowing love yet tethered tight, urging fulfillment drawn, carrying hollow aspirations, measured cost, risking everything, pushing further, shedding light on darkness, welcoming safety, taking hold, beckoning courage, steer onward, forging paths, deep, daring step, wading toward unknown discovery, cherished, freely finding happiness, imagined, threadbare, wandering, brightly sparkling, alive forevermore. Mia stood in the middle of her living room, her small figure dwarfed by the imposing men surrounding her. The warmth that once filled the air was replaced by a chilling tension that sent shivers up her spine. Her heart raced, yet she felt a strange sense of calmness wash over her, a bravery she didn't quite understand but instinctively embraced. Clutching her pink bunny tightly against her chest, she took a deep breath and tried to steady herself amid the chaos unfolding before her. "Who are you?" Mia asked, her voice trembling slightly but carrying a hint of defiance. She had always been taught to speak up and stand tall, even in uncertain situations. This moment was no different, even if it felt like stepping into a storybook filled with shadows and danger rather than sunshine and laughter. The men exchanged glances, their expressions revealing uncertainty. Mia noticed the way they shifted their weight from one foot to the other, as if they were unsure how to handle a little girl asking questions that shouldn't be asked. In that instant, she realized they felt just as confused as she was, perhaps even more so. A flicker of courage ignited within her. She wasn't going to let fear take hold of her heart. "I'm not afraid of you," she declared, surprising herself with the strength in her voice. It wasn't true entirely. She was scared, her stomach twisted in knots, but boldness bubbled to the surface like a shield protecting her innocence. She stood with resolve, pushing back against the fear that threatened to consume her. Mia glanced at her parents, who were standing protectively in front of her. Their concern was palpable, yet it only fueled her bravery further. She could see the determination etched on their faces. They were ready to defend her at all costs. In their presence, Mia felt a sense of safety that bolstered her spirit even more. "Why are you here?" she pressed again, feeling an odd sense of control despite being surrounded by strangers who clearly meant trouble. They had invaded her home, the sacred space where laughter filled every corner and love enveloped them like a warm blanket. The men hesitated, caught off guard by Mia's innocent yet fierce demeanor. They had come intending to intimidate and extract information from a naive child, but here stood before them a young girl who refused to be frightened into silence, a brave soul facing unexpected danger head-on. As sirens blared outside, amplifying the tension in the room, Mia's mind raced with thoughts of what this all meant. She remembered stories from books where heroes faced villains with courage and cleverness. She wanted to be just like them. Even though fear fluttered inside her like birds trapped in a cage, she couldn't let it stop her from standing strong for herself and for those she loved. "What do you want?" Mia repeated firmly, refusing to back down now that she had spoken up once more. The enforcers exchanged nervous glances again, their bravado faltering under the weight of this child's unexpected bravery. For each second that passed, Mia felt like she was stepping deeper into a world filled with shadows, a world where good and evil danced dangerously close together. in that moment of confrontation between innocence and danger. Mia did not fully comprehend the gravity of what was happening around her. All she knew was that these men seemed out of place in her colorful home, adorned with butterflies and cheerful artwork. She thought about how much fun she'd had earlier playing outside with friends and how quickly everything had changed. How now there were people wearing dark clothes standing in front of her, trying to take away the safety she cherished so dearly. But somewhere deep inside, Mia remained hopeful. Perhaps this challenge was just another adventure disguised under layers of confusion, waiting patiently for resolution to unfold. With each heartbeat echoing loudly within those four walls filled with uncertainty swirling around, she would not let fear take root or allow these moments to define who she would become. Through this ordeal, Mia discovered something powerful within herself, the realization that even when faced with unexpected danger, one could still find strength beneath layers woven tightly around kindness, wrapped gently alongside courage, shining brightly amid darkness, beckoning onward, calling forth resilience, strength, illuminating pathways toward hope, inviting solace through tangled threads, searching tirelessly, ever onward, toward dreams, alive, blossoming beautifully, dancing free, seeking light, thriving joyfully, promising bright tomorrows filled forevermore. The news of the chaotic scene at Mia's home spread quickly throughout the neighborhood, igniting a wave of concern and fear among residents. As whispers circulated from house to house, the once cheerful atmosphere of the community transformed into a tense uncertainty. Families gathered in their living rooms, exchanging worried glances and hushed conversations, each wondering what this incident meant for their own safety. Mrs. Thompson, the elderly woman known for her beautiful rose garden, was one of the first to react. Peering out from behind her curtains, she watched as police cars filled the street, their flashing lights casting eerie shadows on her well-tended flower beds. "What is happening to our neighborhood?" she muttered to herself, her heart racing. She remembered how the community had always felt safe, a place where children played freely and neighbors looked out for one another. Now, that sense of security was shaken. As the evening wore on, more neighbors stepped outside to learn what had transpired. They gathered in small clusters on sidewalks and porches, sharing bits of information they had overheard. Some were frightened, their minds racing with thoughts of what could happen next. "Do you think they'll come back?" asked Mr. Harris, who lived 2 doors down from Mia's family. His voice was filled with apprehension as he considered whether he'd have to protect his own children if things escalated further. Others in the community reacted with a sense of determination. "We need to do something," said Mrs. Sanchez, a single mother who often organized neighborhood gatherings. "We can't let fear take over. We must support Mia's family." She quickly began rallying people to form a plan, a community watch, perhaps, or meetings to discuss how they could come together to protect each other. The feeling of solidarity began to spread like wildfire among those who had once been strangers, but were now united in their concern. As the sirens faded into the distance and the chaos at Mia's home began to settle, a group of neighbors decided to take action. They approached Mia's parents, who were still shaken but grateful for the support. "We're here for you," one neighbor said gently, placing a reassuring hand on Mia's mother's shoulder. "Whatever you need, just ask." Mia's parents felt a wave of relief wash over them. They had been so consumed with fear for their daughter that they hadn't thought about how the community might respond. The kindness extended toward them made them realize they weren't alone in this fight against darkness encroaching upon their lives. That evening, as darkness blanketed the sky, families began to gather at Mia's home. The familiar faces of friends and neighbors filled the living room, bringing with them homemade meals and comforting words. Mia watched as her parents engaged in conversations filled with determination and resolve. It was heartening to see them surrounded by love and support during such a tumultuous time. Mia peeked out from behind her mother's skirt, her small hand still clutching Bunny tightly. She felt a mix of confusion and comfort. How could something so scary bring everyone together? She noticed that even though the adults spoke in serious tones about safety and plans, there were moments of laughter and lightheartedness as well. It reminded her that joy could still exist even in difficult times. As she listened to the conversations swirling around her, Mia felt proud to be a part of such a caring community. The bravery she had summoned earlier surged within her again, knowing that even though danger lurked nearby, there was also strength in numbers and love among neighbors. The night wore on with discussions about forming a neighborhood watch and keeping an eye out for one another. Plans began to take shape as every voice contributed ideas for keeping everyone safe moving forward. This sense of unity made Mia feel braver than ever. She wasn't just standing alone anymore. She had an entire community rallying behind her. Little did she know that this experience would not only shape her understanding of bravery, but also teach her about compassion, resilience, and the importance of community. As she drifted off to sleep that night, surrounded by her family and enveloped by the warmth of friendship and support, Mia realized that no matter how frightening the world might seem at times, love and togetherness would always shine through the darkness, guiding her safely toward tomorrow. As the chaotic evening wore on, the tension inside Mia's home reached its peak. Just as the enforcers stood in a daze, caught between their dark intentions and the innocence of a little girl, there came a sudden pounding at the door. It was the police responding to the sirens that had filled the air moments before. Mia's heart raced at the sound, but her instinctive bravery remained steady. This was a moment of truth. She could feel it. Tony exchanged nervous glances with his fellow enforcers. They knew they were cornered now. The weight of their actions pressed heavily on them, amplifying their fear as they heard the police officers call out for them to come out with their hands raised. "Let's go," one enforcer hissed, panic setting in as they realized escape was slipping away. But Tony hesitated, caught in a moral battle between loyalty to Marco and recognizing the consequences of their choices. What about Mia? He thought, feeling an unfamiliar pang of responsibility growing within him. The faces of her parents flashed through his mind, filled with worry and determination to protect their child at all costs. He had never considered how his actions might affect innocent lives before this moment. Meanwhile, Mia peered around her father's side, her blue eyes wide with curiosity as she took in the scene unfolding before her. The police had arrived, and although she felt a mix of fear and uncertainty, she also felt hopeful for help arriving at last. With urgency escalating rapidly, Tony turned to his crew. "We need to leave now," he barked, urgency cracking his once steely demeanor. They started retreating toward the back door, just as the police broke through the front entrance. Officers rushed into the living room, immediately assessing the situation. "Everyone down on the ground! You're under arrest!" shouted one officer, brandishing his weapon. The enforcers froze for a moment before bolting for freedom. They dashed past bewildered neighbors who had gathered outside watching in confusion. In those fleeting moments, Tony felt something shift within him, a realization that he didn't want this life anymore. In his rush to escape, he glanced back at Mia one last time and noticed her clutching Bunny tightly while standing defiantly beside her parents. Her bravery struck him hard. It was more than he had mustered in years. With conviction simmering behind her innocent facade, she represented everything he'd lost along his path, everything worth protecting. Outside, chaos erupted as police chased after the fleeing enforcers through the neighborhood's streets. The community quickly mobilized. Neighbors who had once been filled with fear now stepped forward to assist law enforcement in apprehending the criminals threatening their safety. Back inside Mia's home, relief washed over her family when police officers reassured them of their safety amidst all the commotion outside. "You're safe now," an officer said softly to Mia's parents as they hugged each other tightly. As time passed and the night unfolded, local news crews arrived to capture what had transpired, a series of events that would soon become a story shared among friends and families throughout town. News of Mia's bravery would spread just as quickly as fear had earlier. People began rallying around her family, offering love and support. In the days that followed, Marco faced serious repercussions as law enforcement uncovered his illegal activities tied to organized crime. He was arrested along with several of his enforcers who were caught attempting to flee from justice during that chaotic night. Their reign of intimidation shattered by a little girl's courage and a community united against fear. Mia's parents worked diligently alongside their supportive neighbors to foster a sense of security in their community once more. They organized gatherings to discuss safety measures like neighborhood watches, transforming fear into proactive strength that would bind them closer together as guardians for each other's children. And Mia? She learned about bravery not just from standing up to strangers, but also from seeing how people came together when faced with adversity. Each day brought renewed hope, the kind that reminded her even amidst darkness, love could shine bright, illuminating pathways toward friendship, forged strong through shared experiences faced bravely together. As she lay in bed nights later, surrounded by her family, with Bunny tucked close beside her, Mia smiled softly, drifting off into dreams filled with new adventures, knowing no matter how frightening life may become, she would always have strength within herself, unyielding, guiding light found deep within friendships, born through shadows, lingering close, mingling brightly above tremors, played across future skies ahead, beckoning forth brighter tomorrows. Awaiting discovery, made whole again amid warmth endlessly wrapped around safety. Holding firm with care, drawn deeply, welcoming joy, unfolding ever more brightly. Lighting paths, revealing home everlasting. In the aftermath of the harrowing events at Mia's home, several important lessons emerged for everyone involved in the story. The incident served as a powerful reminder of the strength found in community, the resilience of childhood innocence, and the profound impact of bravery in the face of danger. First and foremost, the community response was a testament to how united people can be when faced with adversity. It illustrated that even in moments of fear and uncertainty, individuals can come together to create a protective force. Neighbors who previously may not have known each other well stepped up, rallied by their shared concern for Mia and her family. They formed connections born from compassion and solidarity. The fear that once gripped them transformed into a collective determination to ensure their neighborhood remained safe. This sense of unity reminded readers that no one should feel alone when challenged by darkness. Bravery played a pivotal role in this story, primarily through Mia herself. Despite being just a child, she faced incredibly intimidating men with courage that even many adults might struggle to summon. Holding tight to her beloved Bunny, she stood her ground and questioned the intentions of the intruders rather than cowering in fear. Her bravery not only protected her in that moment, but also served as a beacon for those around her, especially for the enforcers who found themselves questioning their own actions in light of her innocence. Mia's resolve inspired others to step outside their comfort zones and confront fears standing stark against courageous purity embodied in such youthful sincerity. Moreover, Mia's parents exhibited remarkable strength during this ordeal. Their instinct to protect their daughter exhibited a profound love that resonated deeply with all parents reading or experiencing the tale. They bravely pushed back against the threatening men, determined to safeguard the joy and warmth of their home. Their actions emphasized how parental love can manifest as fierce bravery and unwavering support in dire circumstances. This story also serves as a reminder about the importance of safety and vigilance within communities. The organized effort post-incident to create neighborhood watch programs showcased how proactive measures could deter crime and foster security for all families involved. By taking steps to protect one another, communities can cultivate safe environments where children are free to play and explore without fear. Mia's experience imparted valuable life lessons. She learned that while danger can sometimes lurk unexpectedly, courage resides not just in showy gestures, but in quiet actions taken out of love. Her innocence remained intact despite having faced unexpected peril. Through it all, she realized that sometimes true strength lies in vulnerability and in leaning on one another for support. As she drifted off to sleep each night after those events, surrounded by her loving family and enveloped in the comfort of her warm blanket, Mia understood that hope could flourish even amidst chaos. Friendship became a luminous thread woven tightly through their lives as they navigated challenges together, finding solace in laughter shared amongst worried conversations about safety. Ultimately, Little Girl wrote her address on Mafia boss's receipt, teaches us that when fear strikes, be it from darkness infiltrating our lives or through uncertainty stemming from our struggles, we must remember that togetherness breeds strength. Acts of kindness ripple outward into profound impacts on others' lives, allowing light through darkness, seeking refuge embraced boldly, transforming futures brightened by collective care, guiding hearts toward tomorrow filled with renewed joy, painting dreams alive amid shadows, whispering hope, promising peace everlasting, in standing up for what's right and embracing community bonds forged under difficult circumstances. Those who witness such acts will undoubtedly carry these morals forward beyond pages penned, reminding us all, there will forever exist an unmatched power nestled lovingly within unwavering courage, blossoming friendship standing strong, no matter how daunting paths appear up front, awaiting adventures worth exploring on bright days, seen clearly illuminating life blossoming anew.